word iconic usually relates to things that have transcended whatever their area of expertise is, to become part of the mainstream culture, part of the mainstream lexicon. It happens all the time. We have iconic musicians, songs that whether you know the musician or not, you definitely know that particular song. And some of them have so many pieces of music that they have become iconic because everything is a hit. Same with certain movie stars. They have had so many huge breakout hits, box office smashes, that they would be considered iconic. Same thing in sports and sports entertainment. Well, when it comes to the world of the Transformers, we have characters that all of us think of as iconic. Some of them are trucks, some of them are blasters, some of them are monkeys, some of them are dinosaurs, some of them are planes, and well, everything else in between. So I thought it was high time, with all of the names that people throw out and say this is iconic and that is iconic and this is super special and this is amazing and oh, this is what defines the franchise, I thought it was high time that we finally look at the top 10 most iconic Transformers as voted on by you guys all across social media. And that's going to be our focus this time around in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, light them up, baby. And hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton. It lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, Transformers Collectors NL, The Autobot Family, Transformers vs. G.I. Joe vs. DC Universe vs. Marvel, and all of my social media links. They're all down in the description below, man. I'm not a hard dude to find. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can always use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon, see what we offer to you through Teespring, or of course you can hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member. And this is the top 10 as voted on by you guys all across social media. This is the top 10 most iconic Transformers characters. This was not one I intended to do, but it is one that was suggested. So I said, you know what, sometimes when people suggest stuff, I do certainly try to accommodate where I can. So that's what we're doing this week, is a fan suggested one. And you might think that the voting is obvious, and in certain respects as we go down through you'll see it certainly is obvious, but there were some surprises along the way that really kind of stuck out to me. Some appear here that I didn't expect to, and some appear at a position that I didn't expect them to appear at. I would have ranked it differently, if that makes sense. The honorable mentions, that's where we're going to kick things off first, and there are of course 5 of them this time. The first one, my very favorite Transformers character, Wheeljack, got enough votes to make it into the honorable mentions, as did Prowl. Prowl, as a matter of fact, got the same number of votes as Wheeljack. Ultra Magnus made it into the honorable mentions, pardon me, as did Ironhide and Jazz. Jazz, so close, man, to making it on the list. I mean, super duper close. It was a close race between the honorable mentions and the list itself. So that's the honorable mentions. Once again, Wheeljack, Prowl, Ultra Magnus, Ironhide, and Jazz. I think I would have at least had Ironhide on the list myself. So that's it. There's your honorable mentions. So who made the list? Well, we're going to do as we always do and kick things off first with number 10. Number 10 definitely surprised me. It was one I certainly did not expect. It's none other than the Autobot medic himself, the doctor of the group, Ratchet. Ratchet comes in as at the number 10 spot for most iconic Transformer. Nobody identified a particular Ratchet. But for me, of course, it's going to be the G1. I would venture to say that a lot of people, when they cast that vote, intended for it to be animated or perhaps more likely Transformers Prime. Those are quite well known. But anyway you cut it, he who keeps the Autobots going made the list, maybe because of that brilliant white. However you want to consider it, whether it's this guy, the animated, the Transformers Prime, or some other version of Ratchet thereof, he took enough votes to snag himself the number 10 slot. And the voting for number 9 is nothing less than sheer chaos, because number 9 is the Chaos Bringer himself, Unicron. This, of course, is the 01 Studio Cell version of Unicron. I thought Unicron was going to be higher. I really did. Like, in essence, he's the biggest villain that Transformers has. He's basically their version of the devil, and I really, really thought that he was going to appear higher on the list. Small spoiler, Primus didn't appear on the list at all. In fact, Primus didn't even get a vote, which I find shocking. Unicron made the list, and his counterpart, the good guy, didn't even get a vote. Who could have expected that? Any way you cut it, enough people liked the chaos to help this guy solidify himself at the number 9 slot. And for number 8, we move from the chaos of number 9 to, well, one of the most logical choices for this list. I'm talking about Shockwave. Look, this guy, this version, this robot was used both officially and unofficially really since the very beginning of G1. Some will remember him as purple, some will remember him as gray. Remember Shockwave? But most people at least recognize his hexagon head and his mono eye. Some will remember his blaster over here too. A lot also remember his voice. Any way you cut it, this is one of those characters where even people who aren't fans of Transformers often look at him and say, oh, I do remember that guy. If for no other reason than because he looks so weird and so monochromatic. Any way you cut it, he took enough votes to seal the deal at the number 8 slot. Now, number 7 sort of blew me away because he hasn't appeared in every fiction. Yes, in comic books. Yes, he was kind of major in the 86 film, and I probably would have thought he'd make the list, but I did not think he would make it this high. I'm talking about Hot Rod. This, of course, is the Titans Return version of the guy. I still like this, to be honest with you. Enough people voted for Hot Rod to say, yeah, he is iconic. Yeah, he embodies everything that Transformers is. And perhaps there's an argument to be made for it, because even those who are somewhat passing and know the 86 film, even if that's the only thing they know, would probably know who Hot Rod is. With the name Hot Rod reused recently in the last night, within the last few years, it's a name that, again, at least people might recognize, even if they don't recognize this version of the character. I think the name might be a little more iconic than this body type or the movie body type. I think people will recognize the name more. Why? Because it's kind of catchy, it's short, it's easy to remember. Any way you cut it, this guy pulls in quite solidly at the number 7 slot. Now, I expected number 6 to be higher than what he is. I knew he'd be on the list. I thought he'd come in at number 4, as he usually does. I'm talking, of course, about Grimlock. At number 6, we have Grimlock. Before anybody bothers to ask me, hey, are you getting the 86 Grimlock? I'm not planning on it. This is my Black Mamba Grimlock, and this guy pretty much does everything I need my Grimlock to do. Nothing wrong with the 86, it's just I think this works better for me and my collection. Look, a lot of people that aren't fans still love the Dinobots. When we did a vote a little while ago of the least intelligent, a ton of people voted for Grimlock. Some of them said, Grimlock's the only not smart one I know. I think there were some other Dinobots, but I don't know their names. But everybody knows Grimlock. And he has appeared time and again. While most people know this G1 sort of version of him, some would be more familiar with the name as it relates to, like, Robots in Disguise, I think, or as it relates to the Robots in Disguise 2015, or as it relates to even the more recent Cyberverse. Anyway you cut it, the Dinobot leader, who's a T-Rex, most people know to be Grimlock, fan and not fan. And because of the mix of those votes of fans and just the casual fan, he was able to pull himself in and sit himself down at the number 6 slot. And right here at the halfway mark, we have he who is at the very least the most deceptive and underhanded of all Transformers. And one of the most recognizable. I'm talking about Starscream. I think Starscream is very fitting at number 5. I thought he would, again, for sure be on the list. I didn't know where. I think number 5 is a good spot for Starscream to sit. Again, whether you know the Transformers Prime version or the Armada version or this version, everybody knows that Starscream's the movie version, the Dorito Scream as they call him. But like everybody knows Okay, everybody knows that Starscream is, and always will be, the Decepticon second in command, the Decepticon jet. More often than not, he's a coward who's very deceitful. There have been slight variations on that, you know, time and again, here and there. But for the most part, most people, fan or not, can kind of, you know, pick out not only Starscream, but pick out his underhanded, deceitful type of personality. For those reasons, he takes the number 5 slot. And at number 4, we have he who I thought would be a number 1, talking about a Bumblebee. This is the KBB Hornets agent who represents G1 Bumblebee. Most people, however, most popularly know either the Transformers Prime version or, more importantly, the movie version of Bumblebee. In fact, he was so popular that he has actually garnered his own film. And I get it, like, he stands out, he's yellow, he's a likable Transformer, he's a cool car in many cases. For me, he'll always be this iteration, but that's not true for everyone. It's an easy to remember name, it's an easy to recognize character, and for all those reasons, and because of the proclivity of him becoming such a well-known, well-established character, it is undeniable he was going to be on this list. And he managed to snag enough votes to solidify himself at the number 4 slot. So if Bumblebee is number 4, then who would be number 3? Because we're at the top 3. Well, how about the character whose face, technically, is the Decepticon symbol? I'm talking about Soundwave. It's well known that the head design for Soundwave is really kind of the basis for the Decepticon symbol, certainly inspiration for it. And again, a lot of people know Soundwave. Whether you know the kind of name of the character or not, a lot of people know the Decepticon cassette player who has the little tapes inside, and they at least know that much. And when you say Soundwave, a lot of people will have that light bulb go off and say, oh yeah, it's Soundwave, that's the guy's name. He's the guy who talks funny. Everybody knows his voice as well. Here's the thing, Soundwave's look, Soundwave's voice, his easy to remember name, and his distinctive, you know, kind of a feature of having his chest minions that can pop out of his chest all help to give kind of things in the mind that people can remember. They might not recall all of those points, but they'll certainly recall a couple of them. And enough people recalled them this time around to solidify this guy at the number 3 slot. And that only leaves us with the top 2. Now, number 2 will probably not come as a shock to anybody. In fact, some people might argue that more than the character, his arm cannon is the most iconic thing about him. And I'm talking about the Decepticon leader, Megatron. This is Toy World's hegemon representing him. But we all know Megatron. We all know his bucket head. We all know that the guy is gray or silver, depending on the continuity. Most of the time, if not all of the time, he has some sort of a huge fusion cannon on his arm. Or in some of the movies, his arm actually became the fusion cannon. Nevertheless, when you see like a big Decepticon who is silver or gray, he has an arm cannon, everybody, major fan to minor fan, will pretty much be able to make a pretty solid guess very early on that it's the leader himself, Megatron. And for that reason, he takes the number 2 slot. And number 1 takes us to, now again, a new character who has scored the most votes of any character for any countdown that we've done. No one is going to be shocked by this. This guy had hundreds upon hundreds of votes cast in his name. It is the one that I would have picked, probably, if not for number 1, certainly for number 2, especially since I thought Bumblebee had a fighting chance of being number 1. But by and large, far and clear, the number 1 most iconic Transformer is the father figure himself, Optimus Prime. I think we all knew that Optimus was going to be the number 1 answer. I know I certainly did. And there are features about Optimus that stay true. It does not matter the iteration we get. He is red and blue. He always has the blue helmet with the little ears. More often than not, he has his mask. Even when he doesn't have his mask regularly, it can come out and become a battle mask. He turns into some sort of a transport truck, whether flat-nosed or not. We can always, whether it's the movie, whether it's Cyberverse, whether it's G1, or whether it's Transformers Prime, everyone around the globe almost universally can recognize Optimus Prime. He's the hero that a lot of people grew up with. He's a father figure that a lot of people looked up to. And it has lasted now through so many iterations and so many generations that it is undeniable through video games, books, cartoons and movies, Optimus Prime is not only the most iconic Transformer, but one of the most iconic fictional characters of all time. And for all those reasons, he easily takes the #1 slot. And there you have it once again, folks. 10-1, counted down for you based on the votes. We had some other great ones that came in as well. For, let's see if I can find a few of them here. Cliff Jumper had some votes. Wheelie had a couple of votes. I think a couple of those might have been joke votes, however. Perceptor had a couple of votes. Inferno had a couple of votes. Beast Wars Megatron. God Ginrai had a couple of votes. And let's see if I can find a couple of more here. Omega Supreme had a few votes. And let's throw in Galvatron. Galvatron had a few votes. Maybe even one more. Let's see if we can find one more. Daniel. Believe it or not, Daniel actually had a vote. So, there you go. That is everything. It was fun. Boulder, by the way, from Rescue Bots had a vote. I want to throw him in there, as did Heatwave from Rescue Bots. I thought that was kind of cool. I kind of like Rescue Bots getting a little bit of love. Let me know who your favorites would have been, who you would have included or not included on the list. I appreciate you guys coming by and giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you if you're in a position to help the channel to grow. You can check us out on Patreon, see what we offer to you through Teespring, or of course hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member, baby. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us. Don't forget that somehow, some way, each and every single solitary day, man, you do make a difference. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way, baby, right here inside the videos.